Hey GA Shafter family and friends, this is Mr. Garrett here today. Won't be at my house, but I'm out here in the garden in Shafter. We're going to be talking about companion planting today for our second post. Companion planting is something we do out here every time, and what it consists of is planting different select varieties of crops next to each other in order to have them thrive in their environment and to repel pests. So when I talk about plants thriving, we're talking about planting possibly beans mixed in with our corn, because the beans will provide nitrogen in the soil and the corn is a heavy nitrogen feeder. So it has a nice mutual relationship with one another to help each other out. And with that, the beans can climb up the corn stalks. So provides a little trellis for them. And then also mixing in herbs and pest repellent veggies next to leafy greens in order to keep away things like aphids, cabbage loopers, they're kind of like caterpillars, white flies, and a whole list of pests that could come into the garden. So here in our L plot next to our grape vineyard is where I'm going to start right now. In this first bed, we planted leeks and onions and some parsley down the middle of the bed. And I like to plant onions and leeks and herbs on the edge of the plot as a border. So in hope that it will keep pests away from the plot entirely by bordering our plot with some good pest repelling plants. And then next to the leeks and onions, the next bed over, so here's our leeks. This next bed over, we have leafy greens such as bok choy and a mix of romaine and sangria butter lettuce. So that's kind of how we do it here, is we alternate beds. So one bed will be more of a pest repelling bed planted with pest repellent veggies, and then the next bed is going to be leafy greens such as the bok choy and lettuce. And then the next bed over, once again, it's another pest repellent crop. We have celery, 2 rows of celery, and we had some leftover onions, so we went ahead and threw them in the middle of the bed. And then, yeah, you guessed right, this next bed we have more leafy greens. We have some cabbage coming in all the way down, all the way down. But something you could do here is to border individual beds with herbs and pest repelling veggies. So here we have parsley at the end of this bed to help keep those pests away. And then also in the middle of the bed, we put some fennel, which is a pest repellent herb. And it's used in the kitchen all the time for roasting. You could actually roast the bulb when it gets bigger, and you could also use the leaves as a garnish. Add a little flavor in there. So for individual beds, plant herbs and pest repelling veggies at the end of the beds, and you could also throw them in the middle for a little extra help there. And then we have another bed of green veg here, leafy greens, with some fennel planted on the outside. And then this is just a nice mix. We put our celery on the outside of the bed, and then all throughout the middle we did leafy greens, lettuce, chard, and then we did more onions on this side of the bed, in hope that having the outsides with celery and onions, that will repel a good amount of bugs that we don't want in our garden. Another thing we do here is plant half a bed with leafy greens and the other half with a pest repelling plant. So you don't always have to intercrop or interplant. You could just split it up in blocks. So here, leafy greens, and then we break it up with some dill. The dill acts as a magnet for aphids. These little flowers here that are coming up, they will actually attract the aphids, and they will stay on the dill instead of getting on our leafy greens. And don't cut the deal when you see a bunch of aphids on there. Leave them. They'll stick around. And then this half of the bed is strictly green onions. So we never have issues with pests in our onions, which means that they'll stay away. And then something else we do out here is leafy greens with root vegetables. So here we have a bed of red butter lettuce, and then next to it we have half a bed of carrots. We would get a lot more pests if this entire bed here was filled with this red butter lettuce. So we break it up a little bit and hopefully we throw them off. We also use these sticky traps for pests. They tend to catch a lot of unwanted pests in the garden. Relatively cheap as well. So that's what I got for you guys today. I have attached a document on the Google Classroom that shows a chart of wonderful companion planting. In case you didn't catch everything, it shows what to plant next to each other and also what not to plant next to each other. Certain crops could change the flavor of others. So it has your friends and your foes of what to plant. I hope you enjoyed this and go have fun doing some companion planting. See you later.